Welcome back to the 2 Months Podcast presented by Bile Still and powered by GoGo Sports. I'm your host, Joshua Marshall, and we have a very special guest with us today. This is his third visit on the 2 Months Podcast.
Three.
Yes, you've been on with 3 times for each. So
I should start charging you for these, Josh.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so we have Elliotte Friedman from Hockey Night in Canada and Roger Sportsnet and the 32 Thoughts podcast. Friedge, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing? Best time of year, playoffs.
You got that right, Elliot. It's the weather's getting better, things are cleaning up, and we're in a really good situation here with the playoffs starting. And for you, I guess, how excited are you guys? It looks like this may be the best first round we ever see, and all these games will be on Sportsnet during the playoffs too.
Yeah, so if you don't like me now, you're really gonna hate me in about a month. There's no question about that. I'm looking forward to it. I think we've got, obviously we know some of the matchups, we don't know the others. I'm hoping we see a Rangers Devils series. I am looking forward to Toronto Tampa, though not everybody is. The West is still a little bit all over the map. I absolutely think we're going to see some great hockey, and I'm looking forward to it. I think the first round of the playoffs in hockey is one of the best 2 weeks of the year, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, same here. Before we get into kind of the main stuff here, Elliot, I kind of want to get your thoughts. We did a episode with our kind of internal guys last night here on the pod, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the questions I proposed to them, and I seem to get a lot of traction. I'd like to see what your interest is on it. Is what is more impressive this season? Because we're seeing what the Boston Bruins are doing, but we're also seeing what Connor McDavid is doing. So, in your terms, what would be more impressive? A little bit of a backstory. Obviously, we did think Boston was maybe going to be in this situation, and maybe we thought Connor
Mm-hmm.
was. But at the end of the day, both are impressive. But is there one that you're more impressed by?
Ooh, that's like asking me to pick between two kids and deciding which one I like better. Uh, I guess you know what, this is probably unfair to McDavid, but it's almost like expected of him now, right? Like he's having an incredible year. He's got 60 goals. He's going to win the Hart Trophy in a landslide. And I think the only question, Joshua, is going to be, if he wins it unanimously, like if he gets every first place vote. And and I'm going to say the Boston Bruins are actually more impressive. And the only reason I would say that is because we haven't seen a season like this. Like I have to tell you, like to me, they could set the most wins. I don't think it's apples and apples. Like you take a look at the Canadians, that 60-win team that had 132 points. There were ties back then. You didn't get a situation where there was an overtime or a shootout that awarded the other point. And with the fact they were so good, they probably would have put the record in a place that nobody could have gotten it. I just think in this day and age, for a team to win this many games and have this many points, it's unheard of. So I guess I'd have to say the Bruins, although I know your show is based in Alberta. I can imagine this answer will be wildly popular.
Yeah, exactly. You might get some of those famous tweets that we always love.
That's okay. It just shows that people are listening and they care. I have no
Exactly.
problem with
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
exactly. So we'll move over to the Calgary Flames and kind of, big win last night and an amazing week. I'm sure you're loving this, that the Evil Telecom is not going to get the most important game of the week, and that's the Jets versus Flames. And that game will be fully a national broadcast on Sportsnet. But
Mm-hmm.
talk about what they've where they're at right now. A big goal by Luch, a good friend of the pod, and
Yeah.
another big win for them, and they're still in the fight.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I do that evil telecom stuff as a joke. I
Yeah,
wouldn't want to kick anybody over there.
no,
Someday I might need a job, so like I
exactly.
can't make too much fun of them. Um, I look, first of all, before that game, Calgary has to take care of business on Tuesday night. They've got to win in Chicago. That's a game you can't throw away. I think the amazing thing about this, Josh, is that the Flames aren't making this easy on themselves.
No,
They're like Vancouver's played really well, and in that game on Friday night in BC could have gone either way. And Anaheim got their asses kicked in Edmonton, and they gave Calgary all they could handle on Sunday. Like they're making this probably way too exciting than themselves and their fans would ever want. But I'm happy we have this game. I think it's going to do a big number. I'm jealous I'm not part of the broadcast. They get to do an absolutely huge game. And I give Winnipeg a lot of credit. They looked like they were the Titanic hitting the iceberg, and they won two big games in a row, and they clobbered those teams. Like they
Yeah.
really beat up the Red Wings and the Devils in those games. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm really curious to see, Josh, where Sutter's going to go with his goaltending. I'd go Vladar Markstrom,
Yeah.
but Sutter, he could do anything.
He could for sure. And speaking of him, what is your thoughts on the season he's had, and and where things may go if there's a chance that they don't make the playoffs? Do you think he comes back? Because at the end of the day, I don't think we've ever really seen, a head coach not fulfill a new contract going into it, and that's obviously a new contract kicks in next year. It's been, and I think Keegan would probably attest to it too. It has been some moments that he probably hasn't liked, but they're in the fight right now, and almost every game that they play is a game seven. And Daryl Sutter, I would bet on him any day of the week on trying to win a game seven.
Yeah, I really think that I think it's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens here.
Yeah.
I I think this. I think that Sutter had a tough year, and I think some of the players there have had like if this is not a secret, this has been a really hard year. I think the thing that has been the real challenge is just what's going to happen after the year is over. Like I've reported some of this stuff, Josh. I've talked about some of this stuff. I think the real story here is going to be what at the end of the season, what everybody really feels.
in those
And
in those
how
exit
did
meetings,
like what's that?
in those exit meetings kind of thing, how those go, right?
Um, you know, I think that issue like I just think it's gonna come down to when it's all over, how does everybody feel about the situation going forward? As you said, Sutter has an extension. It's for 2 more years. I don't think the Calgary Flames even envisioned a situation where this would even be a question. I just think like right now, I don't think they want to hear about this talk. I think the players have said, okay, it's enough. Everybody be quiet. Let's worry about just trying to make the playoffs, and we'll sort this all out after the season. So I don't think we're going to get a true picture about this until after the year.
Yeah. And then what about Brad Treliving? Where do you think things stand with him? Because he probably has the opportunity to stay if he wants, and he
I
has done
believe
it,
that.
and he has done an amazing job in his time in Calgary. And he speaks glowingly about the city, where sometimes people want to take a shot at it, and he
Yeah.
takes that personally at times. And you've dealt with him, and I've dealt with him on maybe a smaller scale, and we both know he's an amazing person and great hockey mind. But where do things go for him, do you think?
Well, I think the fact that, like, I do think the Flames want him to stay, and I think they've offered him the opportunity to stay. I think it just simply comes down to, is there any reason that, like at the end of I think they just punted this to the end of the season.
Yeah.
I think everybody has just kind of looked at it like, let's talk about this when the year's over. It has been a tumultuous 12 months in Calgary. Goudreau, Kachuk, all the changes, then everything that's happened this year. I just think everybody wants to take a deep breath and see how they feel after the year's over.
Yeah.
And that's why I think all decisions will be made then.
Yeah.
How does everybody feel when this is done? Where are we moving forward? And that's where I think we're going to go. The tough thing about talking about this now, Josh, is that there have been so much talk about what Sutter's future and what Treliving's future is. I think it's really distracted the group and people there. And I think they're just kind of like in not like this is the final 5 games of the year to determine if we're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Enough worrying about what doesn't matter, and let's sort out what does matter first.
Yeah. And what's your thoughts on Troy Stetcher getting traded there and Richie? Because I think both have added some extra juice to them and given them the support scoring that they've needed. And especially, I think, the importance of how they've lost this losing Shillington that's a tough one, and an amazing player last year, and he wasn't available to him this year. But I think Stetcher has come in and fit in that role pretty well. Your thoughts on those two ads before we move on to the Oilers?
Well, I think Stetcher's been really good. I just think that Brett Ritchie was a guy. I don't think he was really happy, and I think that and Mackey, who they traded in that deal, he wasn't getting a chance to play. What was he, a scratch for like what, 50 games in a row or something like that?
Yeah.
So, I think when you have people in that situation, you move them for them, and you also move them for yourself. You don't want people who are unhappy, and Mackey and Ritchie wanted to play more. So I think you really try to move people like that out to somewhere that might be better, and hope you bring guys in who might be better. Now, the whole Ritchie for Ritchie thing was very weird and a very unusual dynamic. The only thing I can really remember anything like that was when one Murray replaced the other Murray when he was fired in Washington.
Yeah.
And that was 40 years ago almost. So that's how long ago that was. I think the thing here is that Stetcher, I think, has played very well for them. He has definitely given them a breath of fresh air. And Mike Stone coming back last night, also giving them a huge breath of fresh air. I just think Calgary needed good news.
Yeah.
The whole year had been just one bit of rough news after another. And I think they just got to the point where they needed something positive. And at least they've won, what, 4 out of 5?
Yes.
They've been hot. There's finally like a decent feeling there.
Yeah. And those comeback wins are huge too. So
Yeah, they didn't have one. They did not have one all year. Like, it's incredible if you really think about it.
yeah, and I agree with, you hear some of the guys there, they talk, and and just and you and us in the media side of it, I believe there'll be a hard out if they do get in, just because those 1 goal games are going to be a that they've been in all year.
What does Daryl always say? It's a 3-2 league.
It is, and he is
Yes.
working on that right now. So move over to the Edmonton Oilers. An amazing year, and I agree. I heard you and Jeff talk this morning on the Jeff Merrick show, and I agree, and also on the podcast too that came out today. Ekholm has probably been the best addition at the trade deadline, and his record and what he's been able to do in slotting everyone in there, and kind of the season that Darnell Nurse has had, because I don't know if many people talk about him enough, Elliotte, and I think he's done an
Mm-hmm.
amazing job. And he's only got 1 point on the power play; the rest is even strength. And this trade also helps him out too. And kind of what that group looks like now, from the forward group to the defense. And we'll get to the goalies in a second, but thoughts on kind of the players side of it right now up front.
Well, first of all, I think that I really like their team. I do. At the beginning of the year, like I have these goofy rules, Josh, when it comes to picking Stanley Cup contenders. I don't like to pick teams to repeat.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of stupid, but I think it's really hard, and I think kind of boring. And I don't always like to try to pick the favorites. But I really liked Edmonton at the beginning of this year, and I think I actually picked Carolina Edmonton as my Stanley Cup matchup. I don't know how confident I still am in that. I think the injuries might just really hurt Carolina in the playoffs, but I feel a little bit better about Edmonton. I mean, it didn't happen the way I thought it was going to happen. I thought Campbell would be the number one guy, and Skinner's now the number one guy, and he's had a great season. And they brought Ekholm in, and I think he's been dynamite, and he's been a great fit for them. The one thing I really think it does is one thing I think Edmonton has now that they didn't always have is they've got a bit more depth, and they've got guys slotted into places where they need to be. Like Nurse, I think it was just tough to have him playing like 25 to 30 minutes. Like Thomas Chabot in Ottawa, he'd play 30 minutes and he'd say, I can handle it. And he's like a CO2 physical marvel like Duncan Keith. But even that, it's too much. You need to put guys into position where they can be most successful. And I think what like Ekholm has done is it's slotted all those D, and it's given like a lot of those D a break. Um, like Bouchard was clamoring for, like, it was tough with the guy I really felt bad for was Barry,
Yeah.
because he was so happy there and he had such a good role there. I think what they also looked at was Barry was kind of blocking Bouchard from getting to a role that Bouchard really wanted. and now they have Bouchard in that kind of a role, and it looks like it's been working a little bit better. Like I think these West playoffs, Josh, are such a crapshoot. Like all these playoffs, they're such a crapshoot. But I really like the Oilers a lot better now. I just think they're deeper and they've got people playing in the slots that I think they're best set to fit at. And the whole Nuge season, it allows them to play McDavid and Draisaitl more together, which is what they want.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge for them.
Yeah, it's you got, like you say, you got two nuclear weapons like that to go over the bench, and you're gonna, those guys are gonna be, hard to stop. Where's your level of concern at with Skinner going into playoffs with no playoff experience, and Jack Campbell's kind of coming on here. Both are playing amazing. Does it really
Mm-hmm.
matter if you have the playoff experience, Elliot, or are you concerned at all?
Well, I'm more. I've always more looked at personality, right? Um, like you can't. There's only one way to get playoff experience, Josh,
And that's
and that's to actually get in there and play them. Like
exactly.
like everything I've seen about Skinner's temperament makes me confident that he's going to be okay. I just think that I always remember what Ron Hainsey told me about the playoffs, and the only way to be successful is that it's a roller coaster emotionally, right? Like like even the best teams win a lot of series 4-3. So there's a lot of up moments and there's a lot of down moments. And the question is, how do you handle it? And the other thing is, do you have a short memory?
Yeah.
Because you may lose 15-0. It counts as one loss.
Yeah.
And that's the way you've got to think. Like no matter how badly you lose, it's one loss. And no matter how big you win, it's one win. And there's a lot of people who believe that momentum doesn't have to carry over to the next game. You can change the way a series is going, whether you win or lose the previous game. And like to me, that's going to be it for Skinner. Like, how do you handle that? Everything I've seen this year makes me think that he can handle it,
Mm-hmm.
that he's going to be okay. But you don't know until you get there. I'll say this: his body of work this year, I'm a lot more confident now in him than I was at the start of the year. Like if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that Skinner was your number one guy and Campbell was your backup, I think we all would have thought like the Oilers would be like the Titanic, right? Like they'd hit an iceberg.
Yeah.
Instead, Skinner's the number one guy and Campbell's the backup, and they're still okay. And I think all you can do is put your faith in the way the guy's played, and he deserves a lot of faith.
Yeah. Before the season started, we had our good friend Bob Stoffer on, as you know, too. And we,
Oh
we did
yeah,
our predictions, and Stoff owes us a steak dinner because actually we had one of our bold predictions, and I know you kind of do them too. Ours was that Skinner would be the starting goaltender come game one of the playoffs. And
wow.
so
Well, I can tell you this. I know this. Stauffer will never pay you. That's
no,
number one.
yeah,
And number two, like there was like I remember one of the first nights of the season I worked with Anthony Stewart. He picked Jack Campbell for the Vezina,
yeah, I
and
saw,
I picked Thatcher Demko. So like we were both terrible on this.
yeah,
So
it's a
we're not making fun of anybody else.
No, no, it's just how it goes. We'll move over to the Leafs real quick. And what's your what have you thought of the season that Sheldon Keith has been had behind the bench, and a new group kind of coming in. Obviously, the core still staying the same, but two new goaltenders that he didn't have last year, and and some of the injuries that have happened throughout the year. And obviously, on the broadcast last night, you guys pointed out that they've dressed 46 players this year. That's the most in the NHL. And thoughts on that kind of hurdle that he's had to face all year?
Well, a month into the season, I think we thought everybody was getting fired.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's been a lot. It's been a lot better. I think Keith's a good coach. I do. I think when he first got hired, there were a lot of like Spockian eyebrows there. Like, okay, he's only getting the job because Kyle Dubas knows him, and when you replace somebody like Mike Babcock, like and you're coaching the Maple Leafs. I mean, the spotlight is definitely on you. I mean, he's shown to me that there's a lot there, um, but they got to win around.
Yeah.
Josh, I have to say to you, Dubas's record as GM of the Maple Leafs is phenomenal in the regular season, but this is a results oriented league, and like for example, even if they were to lose in the first round, I would think long and hard if I was the Maple Leafs about changing the GM here. I don't necessarily think that's the answer. But I know the good telecom, Josh.
Yeah,
I think I have a good handle on the way
yeah,
they think, and
yeah,
they want to. You know, we're 9 years in. Yeah, we're 9 years into the NHL deal, and the Maple Leafs have not won a round. And I think they're a little bit impatient. Um, you know, like I say this, I'm 52 years old. I lived almost all my life in Toronto. I've seen a lot of bad hockey. I've seen a lot of hockey worse than this.
yeah,
And if I was them, I'd be careful what I wished for. Um, you know, but look, I think they're. I thought they should have beat Tampa last year.
yes,
They blew it. I think they're better this year. But if you've ever heard me, you know I never bet against Tampa.
yeah,
They've got the best goalie. They've got, and you know what they've got? They're freaking mean. Like they're mean,
yeah.
and that hockey wins in the playoffs.
It does. I'm a diehard Leafs fan, 38 years old, and it's been tough, and
Yeah,
I want them to do it. And I saw Jason Spezza in the summertime at the Helenka Gretzky Cup, and it was just kind of nice to talk to him in the position he's in now, and all that.
yeah, he's a good man.
He is, yeah. And it was just, you can see how much it wears on them too of not getting over that hurdle.
Oh yeah,
It's
oh yeah,
and it so we has it for the fans, but these guys are living it as they're trying to do it too. And
yes,
yeah, we'll see. I like you. I don't bet against Tampa. Vasilevsky's got two shutouts in his last three starts, and the one start he didn't get a shutout. He only allowed one goal, I believe. So they're kind of
hmm
coming on at the right time here, and I think home ice is very important. But I don't know. I don't. It's all we always known that it's always kind of gone to a 7 game series or seven
yes,
games. I don't know. Something feels off about this one where maybe those like the only time it hasn't for Toronto was when they got in the first year against Washington and lost in 6. So, but I think we'll see. I hope we see 7 and I hope Toronto wins, but we'll see what happens for sure.
yeah,
Is there anything with the Leafs that you're kind of worried about before we move on to our last question that you're, concerned with the goaltending? Obviously, some of the guys aren't that in and out of the lineup right now with the rest. At some point here, do you just have to get the guys going that are there and figure this out the last 2 weeks of the season?
Well, I would think, like, I think we're starting to see the D pairs now. It looks like it's going to be McCabe playing with Brody, and it looks like Riley's going to play with Shen. I mean, obviously, like, I think Samsonov's answered a lot of questions this year. I think he deserves to be the number one goalie going into the playoffs, but he's facing the best guy of his generation. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, it's a big challenge. Um, like I said, I think Toronto's better than they were last year, but it's a lot of it's between the ears, right? They
yeah,
can't like these losses you talked about, like some of them with Boston, some of them with Tampa, Columbus.
Montreal.
Like I think it's as much between the Montreal. I mean, that was probably the worst one.
Yeah,
I think it's a lot of it's between the ears as much of it's anywhere else, and I have to think they overcome. They have to overcome that. I mean, the one thing we're all talking right now is about bunting and just the penalties. And last night they got him for a diving penalty and a misconduct, and we're all kind of talking about what's going to happen here because they need Bunting to be good for when the playoffs begin. Because against Tampa, if you come in soft, they're going to crush you.
yeah, yeah, for sure. We kind of do got some Vancouver fans here. We'll just get your quick thoughts on the Canucks, and we'll get a final thought on the Sharks. What do you think happened in
Sure.
Vancouver here? As the season's winding down, Demko when he plays, obviously, I think we can see what he can do when he's healthy. He's unreal.
Yeah.
He's probably in the top 5 to top 10 goaltenders. But how important is this offseason in Vancouver?
Well, I think this. I think that I think Demko, like I do think they were going to look into potentially moving Demko this offseason. I don't believe that anymore. I just think he's too valuable and he's signed to a really good contract.
Yeah,
I'm always careful about teams that get hot at this time of the year. You don't know if it really carries over. I think the one thing is it's a new coach who's got term. They understand how this coach is going to, what this coach is going to ask of them. The other thing too, I think, is that it's just quieter. Like a couple of the players when I was out there for the telethon, Josh, they told me like the noise was finally gone. And
yeah,
like it was, they said, like I think you understand it's certainly crazy at some points, but it was really crazy this year. I think with Vancouver, can they find a third line center and can they get Pettersson signed?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Pettersson is still a restricted free agent after next year if he doesn't sign. But if they don't get him signed, I mean, you know what a loony bin that's going to be out
Oh
there.
yeah. Yes.
So I think those are the two big questions: is can they find another center? Can they get Pettersson signed? And if they can do that, I think a lot of people out there are going to start feeling a lot more comfortable. The one thing I like Talkett. I think Talkett sets very reasonable expectations. He tells guys what he expects of them, and if they work towards that, they generally thrive under him.
Yeah. All right. We'll move over and finish off with the San Jose Sharks. Mike Greer, first year as GM, and I think he's done a good job for what has been kind of dealt to him and how it was. Obviously, it was challenging when you lose Brian Marchment, and that was really tough for the organization.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But Matt Benning's a good friend of ours on our podcast, and he's been on with us as three times as well. And
Mm-hmm.
he's
Do
had
you
a
pay
career.
him?
No, no, I'm cheap, Elliotte. No,
That's okay. I totally understand.
yeah, yeah,
We've all got that. Hey, like it happens. I completely get it. I
yeah,
completely get it.
yeah,
It's all good.
yeah. But he's had an amazing year, and he's a career year. But how important was it to kind of get a guy like Matt Benning into that situation, and a veteran player like him to surround him with some of the young players, and what the Sharks have been able to do in some of the trades that they have made this year, because I think they've made some good moves for the future here.
Well, first of all, I'm really happy for Benning. He's got a career high in points. He's got a career high in assists. He's had a good year out there for him. He's got some stability. I like that. I think that Benning is he'll be 29, I think, next month in May, and all you want as you head to that point in your career is a little bit of stability. So you like that. Look, I think everybody knew that this year was going to be a transition year for San Jose. The one thing that the owner made it very clear with everybody he interviewed is that he did not want to hear about a rebuild. He wanted to talk about like a retool or whatever you want to mention. He did not want to hear about a long rebuild. I think they've got a big challenge there. They've got good pieces, but I like Greer. I think Greer is a really sharp guy, and I think that he has a plan, and I think he's going to stick to that plan.
Yeah, yeah. Right on. Elliotte, you've been amazing to me over these years, and here at our journey at the 2 Months podcast. And I know we joke about the pay and all that.
No,
I know,
Josh, like I'm happy to do it.
no, I know you are, but
You don't have to pay me.
no,
No,
and
it's
I
not
just want to
necessary.
say, to the listeners that are listening, you've always, whenever you come on,
Mm-hmm.
you do this in a lot of other places. I think you do this with, Donnie and Dolly, they're in their show, and you always donate whatever earnings you have to a charity that you love a lot. And I think
Yeah.
it's a lot about you. We always ask our players when we have the players on, what charitable initiatives that they love. So I love to ask you that question. And what is near and
Mm.
dear to your heart, and what is the Friedman household gravitate to for charity?
Well, my when I'm on with Donnie and Dolly, and that's a lot more aggravation than this is, I will tell you. I donate to the Canucks Autism Network. The Vancouver Canucks do an unbelievable job for the autism community, and so whenever I go on there, I donate to. Generally, I try to pick stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah,
and we have a member of our families on the spectrum, so obviously I'm part. Like everybody talks about what's near and dear to you.
yeah.
There's always going to be things that affect other people more than us, and there's always going to be things that affect us more than other people.
Right.
So that's kind of my thing, and that's what I donate to.
Perfect. All right, Elliotte. Well, we thank you for your time, and all the best, and get some rest here before you're on the television tube every single night during the playoffs here. All the best to you and your family over the next little bit here, and enjoy the playoffs.
Thanks, Josh, and make sure Stauffer gives you that steak. Like
Yes.
he's been telling me he's going to buy me a steak for a decade, and I've never seen it.
Uh,
Don't you accept that, okay?
okay, we won't here at the 2 Months podcast. We'll make sure we get that steak. We'll take a picture and send it to you. So,
Okay, great. I like
yeah.
that.
All right. Thanks, Elliotte.
Thanks.